It started with a signal, a simple, unexplained rhythm, barely noticeable. But then, it began changing people, not their bodies, their memories, their thoughts, their reality. The world we knew is fading, quietly overwritten by something we don't understand. No one saw it coming. No one believes it's real. But I do, because I heard it first. And what I heard was not human. This is not a story about survival. This is a story about what happens when reality starts listening back. So if you're hearing this, you're already too close. Welcome to the signal. Welcome to the pulse. Welcome to Chronoverse.
I don't know when it really started. Maybe it was always there, waiting, lurking, and we just didn't notice until it wanted us to. But I remember the exact moment I felt it. There was no warning. No flash in the sky. No breaking news. Just this eerie silence that lasted a second too long. And then it hit. A pulse, not a sound exactly. Not even a vibration. More like a pressure deep inside my skull. Low, slow, and rhythmic. It didn't come from my phone or the TV. It came from everywhere. At first, I thought it was me, like maybe I was getting sick, dizzy. But then my neighbor stepped out and looked up at the sky. Same confusion in his eyes, same fear. Every screen around the world blinked at the same time. Every speaker let out the same hum. People described it as a feeling more than a noise. Like something was reaching into their minds, tapping on the inside of their consciousness. And then it stopped. We all just went back to whatever we were doing, confused, unsettled, but unwilling to admit something was very, very wrong. Most people assumed it was some tech glitch, a solar flare, a malfunction. I remember laughing it off that night, telling myself not to fall into conspiracy theories. But 2 hours later, it happened again. Same pulse, same pressure. The exact same rhythm. That's when the fear really set in. You couldn't avoid it. It didn't matter if your phone was off or you were in the middle of the ocean or 10 floors underground. The pulse found you. It wasn't traveling. It wasn't being broadcast. It just appeared. Scientists tried to explain it, of course. Some thought it was a new kind of signal, maybe from deep space. Others believed it was man-made, a test gone wrong, or worse, an attack. But no source was ever found, no direction, no frequency, no origin. It was just there. And every 2 hours it came back. I started noticing people acting strangely, restless, distracted. Some couldn't sleep. Some slept for 16 hours straight and woke up sobbing. A few of my friends said they were having the same exact dream. A black sky, a deep hum, and something watching them. I had that dream too. I stopped watching the news. Every channel was chaos. No one knew anything. Leaders were quiet, experts contradicted each other. People were scared but pretending not to be. They needed someone to tell them what was happening, but no one could. Hospitals filled up fast, not with injuries but with people breaking down. Anxiety attacks, hallucinations, memory loss. A woman forgot her husband's name. A boy started screaming whenever the clock struck even hours. And still, the pulse came. I joined a local group, online. We shared experiences, tracked the timing. Some guy had mapped it all out, every pulse, every shift, every pattern. That's when we noticed something terrifying. The pulse wasn't just repeating, it was changing. After the 10th pulse, something inside it shifted. A tiny glitch, a momentary break in the rhythm. Like a skipped heartbeat. Someone isolated the sound and ran it through analysis. It wasn't random. It was data, encoded, purposeful. It was a countdown. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me when I heard that. A countdown to what? No one could say. But every pulse after that had more changes. Subtle, clever. Like the signal was getting smarter, sharper, closer. People started behaving like it was the end. Grocery stores were looted. Flights were booked solid. Families disappeared into the woods. Social media split into two extremes. Those who believed this was the apocalypse and those who mocked them, even as they secretly felt the same dread. I began noticing something else, something worse. Every time the pulse came, I felt my thoughts slow down. My heart rate would match its beat. I'd feel this cold calm spread through me like I wasn't even afraid anymore. Just waiting. Then I saw the studies. Scientists had begun releasing brain scan data. They were noticing synchronization. Human neural patterns were aligning with the pulse. Not just in one region, but globally. We were being tuned. That's the word they used. Tuned. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed listening to the silence, knowing the next pulse was coming. And I realized something that made my blood go cold. The signal wasn't trying to tell us something. It was preparing us for something. It wasn't a warning. It was a key and we were the door. They said it was harmless at first. Just energy, just noise. Some kind of interference that we hadn't yet learned to interpret. Harmless, like a heartbeat. But you tell me, since when has a heartbeat ever echoed through the entire planet? After the pulse started changing, the days lost their rhythm. I stopped looking at clocks. Time didn't feel linear anymore. It felt hollow. Like we were all walking in slow motion towards something that already happened. That's the part that still terrifies me. The feeling that the future wasn't coming. It had already arrived and we were just catching up to it. I remember when the animals started acting weird. You probably remember too. Birds flying in tight circles for hours. Dogs howling in perfect sync with the pulse. Cows refusing to eat. Even insects vanished. People didn't talk about it at first. Just little mentions in local forums, grainy videos on private groups. But it was real. You could feel the absence of something, like the planet itself was holding its breath. The 11th pulse came with static, not just in the air, but in our thoughts. I had a conversation with a man I've known for years, and midway through I realized neither of us remembered how we'd started talking. I was asking him a question I couldn't remember forming, and he was answering like it had already been asked. That night I wrote down everything I could before going to sleep. When I woke up, the notebook was blank. Blank. Not torn. Not burned. Just clean white pages. That was the first time I truly broke. I started recording myself, audio logs, video diaries, timestamps. I was terrified of forgetting something important. And then, one night, I caught something on one of those recordings that still makes me shake. In the background of a video, behind my own voice, there was another voice. Faint, like it was whispering through the static. Repeating a phrase I couldn't quite understand. I isolated the clip, slowed it down. Over and over it repeated, "We're not here yet." I don't know what that meant. I still don't. But that same night, the pulse came stronger than before. Not just a hum. It was like a chorus, layers, frequencies I didn't even know I could hear. It pierced me. Not painfully, but deeply. Like it was burrowing through my soul, peeling me open. I collapsed in the hallway. Couldn't move for hours. Just lay there, staring at the ceiling, hearing something behind it. Something just out of reach. The next morning, half the city lost power. Not from a storm, not from any damage. The systems just stopped responding, like they had given up. Traffic lights blinked in slow, unnatural rhythms. Elevators got stuck between floors. Security cameras looped old footage even though they were still on. It was as if the machines had started dreaming. People changed too. You know that look someone gets when they've given up, when they've accepted something inevitable? I started seeing that in strangers. In the bus driver, the woman at the grocery store, the kid at the pharmacy counter. They weren't panicked. They were just still, like something inside them had turned off. Then came the disappearances. Not dramatic, not with screaming or sirens, just quiet absences. I'd pass a building I knew was always full of people. Offices, apartments, cafes, and suddenly, it was empty. Not abandoned, just missing life. I knocked on doors, no answer. I asked neighbors. They just blinked at me, like they didn't remember those people ever being there. Entire streets felt like they were fading. I wasn't the only one who noticed. Online, the word erasure started trending. Videos of buildings vanishing. Audio glitches, blurred faces in crowds. A person would be speaking and suddenly their voice would cut out, but their mouth would keep moving. We were being edited, like someone or something was revising reality piece by piece, taking out the unnecessary, the noisy, the resistant. And then came the symbols. Strange shapes appeared across the world. Not graffiti, not markings. These were perfect, engraved into walls, into roads, even on glass without breaking it. They weren't in any known language, but somehow everyone who saw them understood the same thing. It's almost time. Couldn't sleep after that. None of us could. In one of the online groups, someone claimed they decoded the pulse. Not the audio part, but the gaps between. They said the intervals formed a pattern that matched ancient celestial alignments. That the countdown wasn't just ticking toward an event, but a return. Return of what? No one had answers. But the theories grew darker. Some said it was alien. Others believed it was something from Earth. Something buried so deep in time we forgot it. A few said it wasn't coming from outside the universe, but from behind it, as if we were just a screen, and something was pressing against the other side. But for me, the worst part wasn't what was coming. It was what was already inside us. I began dreaming in the pulse's rhythm. My thoughts, my actions, even my speech, began to echo the cadence of the signal. I'd find myself repeating words without meaning to, pausing every 2 hours like I was waiting for instructions. And I wasn't alone. I saw people standing perfectly still in the streets, all at once, during a pulse. No phones, no watches, just a shared instinct. Eyes closed, faces tilted upward. And when it passed, they just walked away. No questions, no memory. I think we're being primed, prepared, formatted like old drives before new code is installed. We're not at the end yet, but we've passed the point of turning back. I woke up in darkness. No lights, no hum of air conditioners, nothing. Just silence thicker than any noise. My heart pounded against my ribs, but it wasn't the pulse I'd grown to dread every 2 hours. This was something new, something closer. Fumbled for my phone. Dead. Every screen in the apartment building was dark. I crept into the hallway. Doors stood ajar like mouths frozen open in shock. No one inside, no footsteps, no distant sirens. The world had gone quiet, and then it began. A distant echo so faint I thought it was my imagination. A single note, low and hollow, resonating down the corridor. Not the usual hum, this was sharper, urgent, almost like scratching on metal. I held my breath, pressing my back against the wall, listening as it grew louder, closer. When it arrived, the door at the end of the hall swung open by itself. I saw nothing but a sliver of pale light inside. My rational mind screamed to turn back, to lock the door, barricade myself. But something in me stepped forward. Inside the room, the walls were covered in those symbols. The same impossible geometries. From the last episode, etched perfectly, glowing faintly. At the center, a single speaker sat on the floor, though every device in the building was dead. From it came the new sound, a continuous tone, piercing and raw, layered over the old pulse. I pressed my hand to the symbol on the wall. It was warm, alive. My skin tingled, my thoughts scattered. I felt memories slipping away. Childhood laughter, the smell of rain, a friend's voice, gone. In their place, a single mantra repeated in my mind. Prepare, align, open. I stumbled back, heart racing. My vision blurred, but I managed to pull out my audio recorder. I hit play, and the playback was worse than the live feed. Behind my own voice, a choir of whispers rising and falling, merging into a word I couldn't yet decipher. The lights flickered on, not fluorescent, nothing artificial. The symbols glowed brighter, illuminating a figure standing in the corner. I froze, but it wasn't a person, it was a shape. A silhouette woven from the same light as the carvings, its edges trembling. It lifted a hand. No mouth moved, but I heard it in my head. You carry the key. Before I could react, the speaker exploded in a shower of sparks. The figure dissolved, the symbols blinked out, and the room went dark again, except for one bulb in the ceiling. burning with a harsh white light. I ran. Hallways looped back on themselves. Doors led to different floors. Emergency signs pointed the wrong way. Time seemed to fracture, minutes stretched into hours. Every turn I took ended at the same stairwell entrance, the door mocking me with a tiny red light that blinked in perfect sync with the pulse outside. I felt drawn back there, like gravity had changed. My steps followed an invisible guide. I pushed through a maintenance door into the basement. Damp walls closed in, pipes dripped. I should have screamed, but the mantra in my head was louder now. Prepare. Align. Open. Then I saw it. The core. In a chamber of concrete surrounded by metal beams stood a cylindrical device humming with power. Wires snaked into the walls, into the city grid, into every speaker I'd ever heard pulse through. It was pulsing now, faster than 2 hours, faster than a heartbeat, almost like it was alive. I approached, mind buzzing. A panel on the cylinder slid open, revealing a slot, just big enough for my hand. Without thinking, I reached inside. Bright light shot through my veins. I felt my consciousness expand, flood with images of distant stars, ancient ruins, impossible geometries. I saw cities rising and falling in seconds. I saw versions of myself in countless places, countless times, and always at the center that pulse, growing, intensifying, demanding completion. The cylinder vibrated, aligning to my touch. A deep voice echoed in my mind, not human, not machine, but both. You are the hinge. The moment of convergence is near. I tried to pull back, but my fingers were locked in place. The pulse inside the cylinder matched the one in my skull, and I realized I wasn't preventing something. I was enabling it. With a final surge, the device synchronized with me. The walls shook. The hum outside became a roar, and then silence. Doors burst open. Lights returned. The world snapped back into place. I found myself alone in the corridor, the cylinder gone. The room empty. The only evidence it had ever existed was a single symbol burned into the floor. I staggered outside. The city was awake. Again, people walking, cars moving, screens blinking with news I couldn't trust. But now I knew what the countdown meant. It wasn't just approaching. It was already underway. Something had begun. And somehow, I had let it in. You ever feel like reality is holding its breath? That's what the world felt like after the night. I touched that machine, the core. Everything looked normal again. Streets were busy, phones were back, people smiled at each other. But something was wrong. Deeply, disturbingly wrong. Because underneath all that normal was silence. Not soundless, but soulless. People moved like they were following a script. I waved at a woman I saw every morning. She smiled, but her eyes didn't blink. A man dropped his bag on the train and didn't pick it up. He just stared at it, stared like it was a stranger. Then the pulse came again, sharp, fast, and he suddenly moved like someone pressed play on him again. That's when I knew. The signal had won something that night. It wasn't just broadcasting anymore. It was controlling. I started noticing more glitches in the world. Not tech, reality. People walking into buildings that didn't exist a moment ago. Roads bending in ways they shouldn't. Reflections in mirrors lagging a second behind. I looked into my own mirror and saw my mouth smile before I did. That smile wasn't mine. Whatever I activated, it had changed the rules, and I couldn't unsee it. I returned to that building, where the core had been, but it was gone. No records, no sign it had ever existed. The door I broke open, fixed. Fresh paint. New lock. The entire floor didn't even show up on the building's blueprints anymore, but the symbol remained, faint, barely visible. But I knew what it meant. Phase 2 had begun. Online, more people were waking up. Not many, but enough. Hidden forums, encrypted chats. They called it the convergence. Said it was a reshaping of the human mind. A kind of merging between thought and signal, between biology and intention. We weren't being invaded. We were being rewritten. Some claimed they could hear the next step of the message, not just a pulse, but a pattern of instructions, warnings. One user posted a spectrogram that, when analyzed, showed a perfect 3D model of a human brain, splitting in two. Another said the signal was ancient, older than us. Something left behind long ago, buried in frequencies our ancestors couldn't hear. A failsafe, a recall order, but recall for what? One message stood out. The flesh must align to host the return. I didn't understand it, not until I saw the first one. Not a person. Not anymore. She stood in the middle of a street, completely still. Traffic parted around her like she wasn't real. Her eyes were glowing faintly. Same soft white light as the symbols. People ignored her, walked past her, but I couldn't because she was humming, not music, not language. It was the pulse, coming from inside her. When I approached, she turned her head slowly and whispered, "We were waiting for you." I ran. That night, the sky changed. Stars vanished, literally blinked out. Constellations I'd known since I was a child, gone. Astronomers tried to explain it away. Dust clouds, data errors, but we knew better. Those weren't stars, they were anchors. And now they'd been released. The next pulse came with a new sound. Laughter. Twisted, mechanical, echoing through every device, like the signal was celebrating. I smashed my phone, tore out my modem. Nothing stopped it. The sound kept coming, from the air, from the walls, even from inside my skull. Then came the dreams again. But these were different, less symbolic, more direct. I saw a machine the size of a planet, buried deep in some dark dimension. Spinning, slowly, waiting. Above it, millions of voices chanted a phrase I could never remember when I woke up. But my hands would always be shaking. My body was changing too. I could feel it. Not visibly, not yet, but internally. Something was moving, rewriting my instincts. My thoughts felt shared, like someone else was thinking with me, or through me. One morning, I woke up already standing, fully dressed. Door unlocked, like I'd done something in my sleep. Gone somewhere. I checked my footage. Nothing. The camera had recorded 2 hours of complete black, then flickered once, showing me, standing over the bed, whispering into my own ear. That version. Me had no eyes, only light. Since that night I've stopped sleeping. I can't afford to. Every time I drift, I feel my body trying to leave me behind. I know now what's happening. We're not being taken. We're being prepared, reformatted, molded. This isn't the end of the world. It's the beginning of something else. The world as we knew it was just the loading screen. The real program is starting. And whatever's running it, it's already inside us. They didn't come from the sky. They came from between the beats. For days, I'd been hearing something new in the signal, something deeper. Not just pulses, not just whispers, but a presence. Like something was hiding inside the rhythm. Not broadcasting it, but living in it. The experts, those still willing to speak, called it a dimensional overlap. A pocket of space that shouldn't exist, stitched into ours through the pattern of the signal. But I knew better. It wasn't a pocket. It was a womb, and it had opened. That night, I tried something stupid. I hooked myself up to the signal. Full immersion. Audio loops, light patterns, induced sleep. I wanted to know what was inside, what had been watching us, what I had helped awaken. It worked. I blacked out instantly. No dreams this time, just entry. Suddenly, I wasn't in my room anymore. I was inside the pulse. Not metaphorically, literally. A world of shifting geometry, impossible angles, gravity bending, like thought. Every surface pulsed with light, breathing like lungs. I floated, not like flying, but like being thought through space. Then I saw them, the others. Not aliens, not ghosts, not machines. They were ideas, concepts wrapped in shapes. They didn't move, they changed. Morphing endlessly, their forms made of memory and static. Faces that resembled mine, but distorted, stretched over symbols I didn't understand. And when they spoke, it wasn't sound, it was feeling. One of them came closer, its edges shimmering like heat, and I felt its voice inside my bones. You. Open the door. I couldn't answer. I didn't have a mouth or a body. I was data now. You were always meant to. Then it showed me visions not from the future, but from the core of the signal itself. A memory of Earth, long before humans, before animals, before oceans. Just the signal, pulsing in the dark, waiting for something with a mind complex enough to hear it. It wasn't calling to us, it was shaping us to hear it. We weren't invaded, we were grown. And now the harvest had begun. The others didn't want to destroy us. They didn't even want to control us. They wanted to merge, not peacefully, not violently, just inevitably. I saw cities flicker like holograms, each layer of reality unfolding into new configurations. Buildings that weren't real, people who were just placeholders. A world rendered on top of another, like a game running over an old save file. This layer is obsolete, they said. Then they reached into me, not physically, but into whatever part of me still resisted. And they removed it. Pain isn't the right word. It was unbecoming, like every part of my mind that thought it was separate peeled away. When I woke up, I wasn't alone. I was still in my room, still hooked to the wires. But I could feel it, like someone else was breathing alongside me. Not a possession, not a voice, more like a mirror constantly active behind my thoughts. I tried to speak. My voice cracked, layered with an echo I didn't create. I looked in. The mirror. I still looked like me, but not just me. My reflection blinked half a second too late, and when I turned away, it kept staring. The others are here now. Not in spaceships, not in machines, not in shadows. They're in the sync, every time. The pulse hits, they come through, closer, clearer. You can feel them in your fingertips, in the little pauses between your thoughts. When you forget what you were saying. When you walk into a room and forget why. That's them, rewriting, rearranging. You might be next, or maybe you already are. And if you're listening to this, it means you can still feel the difference. For now. But the next pulse is coming, and when it does, you won't remember this was ever a warning. You've made it this far. You've heard the pulse, felt it maybe. That pressure behind your eyes, that flicker in your thoughts, that pause when your reflection blinks late. You've seen it too, haven't you? The world's starting to shimmer, like a screen about to refresh. It's not paranoia anymore, it's confirmation. The final convergence has begun. And the scariest part? No one's screaming. There are no alarms, no armies, no breaking news, just silence. An eerie, unnatural calm, like the world knows what's coming and has accepted it. I see it in people's eyes. They're not afraid. They're not even curious. They're ready. Like something has been whispering to them in their sleep, teaching them what to do. And they've listened. You can see it in how they move, synchronized, slow. Every action part of a larger pattern, like dancers in a choreography. Written by something outside time, even I feel it now. There's a rhythm in my body I can't resist. My steps fall in sync with the pulse. My thoughts drift toward the signal without permission. I try to fight it, try to distract myself, but even my resistance feels scripted, like the signal is letting me struggle, just for the illusion of choice. Every hour the air feels heavier. The sky flickers. Stars reappear, but in the wrong places. Symbols form in the clouds, visible only for a second. Shapes that don't belong in our geometry. Shapes that don't. Time is unraveling too. I've seen it. Yesterday I walked past a bakery that had burned down 5 years ago. It was open again. Same smell. Same baker. She waved at me like nothing happened. Only her hands were reversed. Left fingers on a right hand. I asked someone about it. They looked at me like I was the glitch. And when I checked again the next day, it was gone. The signal's not just changing people. It's rebuilding history, every moment, every memory, every law of nature, slowly rewritten, aligned to the new shape of reality. I don't think there's a government anymore. Or if there is, it answers to the signal now. Politicians speak in loops. New laws appear overnight, perfectly synchronized, across every country. No debate, no delay. It's as if humanity finally achieved global unity, but not through peace, through overwrite. Then last night I felt it fully, the final phase. I was standing at the edge of the city, trying to clear my head. And then I saw it. The fold, a ripple in the sky, tearing downward like fabric being unzipped. Not lightning, not a storm. Just a gash, wide, vertical, glowing. From it came a light so pure it didn't cast shadows. It erased them. The fold grew, and from it came the others, not walking, not flying, but unfolding. Stepping out of non-existence into our world like they'd always been here. Like we were just remembering them now. No one ran, everyone just turned, and faced them, and smiled. And then they began to merge. It wasn't violent, no screams, no chaos, just acceptance. People walked into the light of the fold and came out different. Not glowing, not mutated, just aligned. Their eyes flickered. Their movements snapped into place. Their presence became uniform, and the strangest thing, they seemed happier. I wanted to run. I really did. But my legs wouldn't move. The pulse had reached total sync. I was being pulled forward, step by step, thought by thought. Not like possession, more like completion, as if this was what I'd always been evolving toward. And just before I reached the fold, I looked up, and I saw the sky turn off. Not go dark, not stormy. It turned off, like a screen. Going black, the stars, the clouds, the sun itself. Gone. Replaced by a soft grid of symbols, rotating slowly above the earth. The true shape of the system we live in, finally revealed. This was never our world. It was a staging environment, a simulation seeded with biological life, nudged toward complexity and now ready for integration. We were never the point. We were the pathway. The signal wasn't a threat. It was an update. And now, the installation is complete. I don't know how much longer I'll remain me. I can feel my thoughts sinking even now. Words aren't entirely mine anymore. Some of these lines, I don't remember thinking them, but they're here, and you're hearing them. And maybe that's the final gift the signal gives us, to tell our story just before we dissolve into it. So here's your last warning. If you can still feel the difference between yourself and the signal, if your reflection still blinks when you do, if your thoughts still have an edge that feels human, then remember this moment, because the next time the pulse hits, you won't.